Here in this room, we are going to start the partner session presented by Kellogg School of Management. This session is titled as Business as a Force for Peace, ESG, Sustainability, and Economic Resilience in a Changing World. Allow me to introduce the speakers. Senior Vice President, ZettaJoule, Mr. KIMURA Tomoyuki. From NTT DOCOMO Global, Senior Vice President, Business Management Division, Ryujiro NEMOTO. And from AllianceBernstein, Head of ESG Strategy, Ms. USUI Haruna. And from Northwestern University, Kellogg School of Management, Director of DRRC, Ms. Cynthia WANG. So these four panelists will be on stage, and Professor Cynthia WANG is going to moderate the session. So please start the session, Professor WANG.
And thank you for coming to this session. I'm very honored to be here and to be talking about this particular topic. I would like to thank Governor Izaki for coming to the session and the executive committee. This is a very important topic. And for those that may not know the Kellogg School of Management, we are a business school that's located at Northwestern University. This is just north of Chicago. We also have a waterfront view. It's not quite as wonderful as the waterfront view here, but we are very focused on bringing the future of business into focus. And our focus is to really develop a community of ambitious and collaborative thought leaders that think creatively, act authentically, and also embrace change with confidence, something that is very, very important these days. And I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm lucky enough to also have gone to the Kellogg School of Management in 2007. I received my PhD there. And I've returned as a faculty member in the Department of Management and Organizations. I'm also the executive director of the Dispute Resolution Research Center, and also the past president of the International Association for Conflict Management. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about understanding how to resolve conflicts and dispute and really promote stability and peace within society. Now, just a little bit more about the Dispute Resolution Research Center. We are a center that was founded approximately 40 years ago, and we're an institution that pushes forward the boundaries of teaching and research on conflict and collaboration. So, one thing we do in terms of teaching how to resolve disputes and conflict is we use a experiential team-based learning method. What does that mean? We focus on active learning, where people do role-playing exercises, for example, to be able to really take part in things like negotiations, take part in things like conflict resolution. And through this practice, this is where we can actually learn to resolve conflict and support problem solving that can help the community in the future. One thing that I want to point out with our materials is it isn't just limited to the Kellogg community. We actually distribute over 250 exercises, cases, and simulations on topics such as negotiations, dispute resolution, decision-making, and teamwork. And we actually sell our exercises and cases all over the world to 70 countries, over 5,000 instructors, and to over 200,000 students annually. And these aren't just undergraduate students, these aren't just MBA students, these are executives at organizations. We do a lot of executive education, and a lot of schools around the world do executive education using our materials. And what we really focus on are some of the important issues that we're all facing today in this world. Of course, we are in a global world, so we have exercises on cross-cultural negotiations. We have exercises with environmental themes, themes around climate change and how to negotiate climate change decisions. And in line with a lot of the topics that were discussed yesterday, we're very focused on how individuals interact with AI, how it can sometimes help innovation when you use AI, and sometimes it can hinder innovation when you use AI. So these are a lot of the themes that we're looking at. Beyond the teaching, I also want to let you know that we focus on research innovation. What we really want to do is in the spirit of this forum, which is to bridge interdisciplinary research with real-world impact by increasing dialogue among academia, government, and business, because that's when real change happens. Some of our research has been highlighted in the media. For example, ongoing in the United States is political polarization, and within the New York Times, they've highlighted some of our research around that topic. And we also highlight research within our Kellogg Insight magazine, which reaches around 1 million visitors per year. I will note, I will personally be talking to Kellogg Insight about this particular forum, so stay tuned. And in a couple of weeks, there'll probably be an article about this forum and about the ESGP model that we've been discussing. So in light of that, I want to switch gears, and I want to start talking about, with the panelists, using the Hiroshima Declaration as a base. And as a reminder, this is a very important declaration. And what is difficult is we're facing a range of challenges, global challenges, such as climate change or economic inequality, which really obstructs the path to peace. And to address these challenges, we have to come together. We have to build that mutual trust. This can contribute to the creation and maintenance of peace and have this positive cycle that allows for further peace and economic stability and prosperity. In light of this declaration, we brought in 3 distinguished alumni panelists, all who have gotten their MBAs at Kellogg, all who are wearing purple, which is our color of choice. And I'm just going to jump into it because we've already introduced the panelists, but they all have varying expertise on the topics that we've just talked about. So I'm going to start with Ryujiro. Oops, I'm going to go back here. We can shut off the slides now. I'm going to start with Ryujiro and just learn a little bit about you. So Ryujiro, you're a class of 2004 alum, and you focused on the global business of NTT. Many of you are probably familiar with this, a giant group of Japanese technology companies. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and yourself? And one thing I've noticed is that NTT DOCOMO group has a very unique brand slogan. Can you also elaborate on that?
Sure, Cynthia. Hello, everyone. I am Ryujiro NEMOTO, and I'm honored to be here. I'm a Kellogg class of 2004, and currently serves as a Senior Vice President of NTT DOCOMO Global, which was established in 2024 to promote global business of NTT DOCOMO Group. I've been involved in the global business of NTT and NTT DOCOMO Group for many years, promoting business alliances, corporate acquisitions, and global business expansion so far. NTT DOCOMO Group's slogan, Bridging Worlds for Wonder and Happiness, holds special significance that we will continue bridging the worlds of people, communities, regions, lifestyles, and industries around the world. I think this policy will allow us to contribute to the peace building and stability through our corporate activity, as stated in the Hiroshima Declaration. As a member of NTT Group, which operates over 70 countries and 340,000 employees globally, NTT DOCOMO provides mobile communication services and smart life services, such as finance, payment, entertainment, and marketing, and to enhance the everyday life of people using new technology, such as AI. NTT DOCOMO Global promotes global business in an integrated and agile manner across DOCOMO groups. Through creating new lifestyle with partners and accelerating structural changes in societies and communities, we think we can contribute to the new communication and stability of the society, which should be the very basis of the peace building.
Yeah, thank you very much. And could you provide a specific
具体的な例を挙げていただき
lifestyle or structural change that has led to this social stability?
Yes. As Hiroshima Declaration states, meeting basic needs and preserve human dignity are essential to maintain the stability and prosperity necessary for peace. I think implementation broadband networks such as FTTH and 5G has been the driving factor to create the new ways of communication, such as SNS and richer contents, cheaply and easily. And I think this will create a new lifestyle change, which leads to the social change to the companies. And then NTT DOCOMO Global is discussing with foreign partners to implement broadband network using Open RAN, which utilize our expertise and experience in Japan. And this will bring a new lifestyle to those who are not currently enjoying the broadband, benefit of broadband network in developing regions.
Wonderful. And so what I hear is that this technology will help bring this social stability that will allow for greater communication between different societies, for example. One thing I do want to mention is we're hoping for time for Q&A, questions and answers from the audience. So if you have one or two questions, burning questions that you want to ask, we'll try to leave time for that also. All right, now I'm going to actually turn to Haruna. Haruna is class of 2007 alumna, so we graduated the same year. We didn't hang out too much together, but I'm very happy that we were there at the same time. Haruna leads the ESG initiatives at AllianceBernstein, Japan, and you have a strong background in investment and business development. Can you tell us a little bit about what investors do when integrating ESG into the investment process? And how do you see the impact of such an initiative on peace building?
Thank you, Cynthia, and good morning, everyone. It is such a great honor to be here today, especially with the presence of Governor Yuzaki, so thank you very much. My name is Haruna Usui, and I'm head of ESG Strategies Japan for AllianceBernstein. So AllianceBernstein is a global investment management firm headquartered in the US with a strong emphasis on research-driven active investment. We manage money of our clients, such as pension funds or retail mutual funds, aiming to achieve certain level of return by investing the money to various asset classes, such as equity or treasury, corporate bonds. We also have nearly 40 years of experience in Japan managing assets. And then in my job, I lead various ESG and responsible investing related initiatives in Japan, such as client communications, policy advocacy, and thought leadership. So let me share a bit about our approach at AllianceBernstein on ESG integration. So we integrate financially material ESG factors into most of our actively managed investment platform. That's now approximately 70% of our total AUM, asset under management. And as a fiduciary managing our clients' money, our mission is to maximize long-term investment returns And to do so, it is important to consider financially material ESG factors that could affect corporates' future earnings and cash flow. So for example, climate change that presents physical risks, such as increased impact and frequencies of flooding and hurricanes, which can disrupt business operations and production facilities. So materiality, this is a keyword, how those factors would affect corporate earnings, differs by sector and industry. So another example of materiality is water consumption and wastewater management, which could present, again, ESG and financial issues for example, beverage companies. So as an active investor, we leverage data science and research platform to continuously strengthen our investment process by adding appropriate ESG lens in our analysis. So I'd like to share some examples on our research based on factor attribution using historical returns, which has shown clear financial implications of ESG factors. So the first one is about employee safety and equity performance. So we divided stocks in the MSCI All Country World Index. So this is basically the global stock market. And we divided them into quintiles, so 4 groups, according to their incident rate, so the number of workplace injuries or illnesses. Then compared the returns of each group relative to the whole market over 14 years until 2024. And the results show that the high injury rate group consistently underperformed the market, while the low injury consistently outperformed. So meaning that companies with better employee safety practices had better stock price performance, whereas weaker ones with poor safety practices. Another example is about corporate behavior and bond performance. So in a similar analysis, we found that what is called social fines, like regulatory penalties for like workplace health or safety or anti-competitive practices, that's a powerful factor. So again, we divided the global bond market into 4 groups, and the group with the high social fines had poor corporate bond returns, and the group with the lowest fines performed well. So these are only a couple of examples, but by looking at that, I hope you could understand the importance of ESG considerations in investment processes in seeking for better financial returns. And then if I could touch a bit on impact on peace building, as Ryujiro said, and as clearly stated in the 2025 Hiroshima Declaration, business contribute to peace through activities, such as by providing employment opportunities and prosperity to a community eventually. At the same time, sustainable growth of corporate value is inevitably based on peace. So investors and businesses need to incorporate its externality and impact, such as biodiversity and appropriate labor management practices, which I'll be excited to share a bit more details later in this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I think it's very compelling to have this research and these metrics to be able to track how ESG impacts the organizational outcomes. Thank you so much. Now, last but not least, I'm going to turn to Tomo. Tomo is class of 1991 alum and is an expert in development finance. He's led the formulation and implementation at the Asian Development Bank's long-term corporate strategy. And of course, you bring a unique perspective to this panel, so we're very excited to have you. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and the organization and your experiences? And in your view, what's the root causes of conflict between countries? Because it's something that you've likely seen when you've been working at the Asian Development Bank. And what role do you see businesses playing in addressing the risks?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tomoyuki KIMURA. Thank you very much for Governor Yuzaki for hosting this excellent event, and also congratulations for the Hiroshima Declaration. I recently joined the startup, clean energy startup, and one of the company's mandate is to provide clean energy to huge power consumers such as data center. But today, I put on my old hat, that of the Chief Strategy Officer of the Asian Development Bank, where I used to work for 25 years. To those who are not really familiar with ADB, it is a multilateral development bank owned by 69 countries and economies, with Japan as its largest shareholders. In the Hiroshima Declaration, the role of an international organization like ADB is not explicitly mentioned, but they have been playing a critical role in peace building. In addition to ESGs that they actually started to consider very seriously in their investment decision even more than decades ago. ADB has an extensive experience in designing, financing, and implementing projects in conflict-affected, fragile countries and regions. Some examples include the post-conflict support in Afghanistan, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and the Philippines, and some preventive support in the Central Asia. Although they have not officially added P to their ESG policy, but actually even more than 10 years ago, they started a very detailed operational guideline for their operation in conflict-affected and fragile situation. I was directly involved in the ADB's post-conflict support in Afghanistan in early 2000. Also, tsunami recovery support for Sri Lanka when the country was in the middle of a civil war. I also led ADB-funded projects to develop an AI-driven ESG assessment platform for the last 2 years. So I'm really passionate about how to use the technology to promote ESG and hopefully plus P. So Cynthia, your question about the cause of conflict, of course there are many, but I would say that one of the major causes is economic disparity and poverty, and there are of course many underlying issues such as infrastructure deficit, limited access to market and finance, and climate change, the environmental stress. Another cause is weak political and the judicial institutions, the laws and the rules. They lead to divisive social and political dynamics, non-inclusive governance structure, lack of access to justice, and then vertical and horizontal inequality. All these can undermine social cohesion and lead to conflicts. And particularly between countries, I think competition on the natural resources and trade barriers, economic isolation, these are often the major cause of conflict. So in addressing these root cause of conflict, I believe the role of private sector business is very important. For example, investment in, say, manufacturing, service, and agriculture would create employment, jobs, and then stimulate local economy. Also, investment in resource management, renewable energy, efficient use of water will mitigate the dispute, by sharing the benefit and promoting cooperation among countries. And also, in terms of cross-border infrastructure investment, the roads and ports, power grid, and the digital network will definitely help enhance economic integration and foster cooperation among countries. But one thing I really would like to emphasize at the beginning is we should be mindful of the difference between peace building versus conflict sensitivity approach. Because peace building activities are primarily motivated by the intention to reduce conflict and promote peace. So therefore, their focus is working on conflict. But on the other hand, adopting conflict-sensitive approach is to deliver development, humanitarian, and business activities in a way that minimize the risk that those activities could cause more harm than good, and then eventually increase the risk of violence. So it is actually laying the foundation for maximizing the positive, impacts of the activities on sustaining peace. So I believe the role of the private sector should be to address those root causes of conflict, to avoid them, to mitigate them, rather than directly working on the conflicts for peace building. So in doing so, I think taking conflict-sensitive approach in business will be critically important. Thank you.
Yes, and I think that's very compelling, this concept of conflict sensitivity and understanding how that can mitigate risk. I'm just going to open it up for maybe one question to each other. Given that we've all introduced our work, do you have any specific questions that you would like to ask?
Yes, and I think for some countries, there is some difficulty to conduct business. And when you have the project to do such project, your primary partner will be the public sector. But how do you manage to include a private sector to these difficult situations?
Yeah, thank you, Ryujiro. When we do an investment project in emerging market, particularly where there's the conflict, the risk, the project risk, country risk, they're very high, right? So bringing all the major stakeholders to share the risk is one thing, but the financing term is also very important. So these days, the financing modality called blended financing is becoming more and more instrumental. This is actually the modality to blend very concessional money, normally from some donor countries or international organization, with commercial money, so that private financiers and banks, they're more motivated to make the investment.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to continue on. Now, Tomo, you've actually provided some interesting directions about how to mitigate conflict. Can you provide a specific example of how some of these initiatives have promoted long-term stability? And also, what are some of the challenges you've faced in convincing constituents to invest?
Thank you, Cynthia. Let me share one example from the country where I used to live for more than 20 years, it's the Philippines. So it's so-called Bangsamoro conflict in the Philippines. It's a Muslim part of Mindanao. So this is a decade-long struggle by the Muslim people for autonomy and self-determination, deeply rooted in historical grievance, marginalization, and also a land dispute. And it led to the armed conflict, as you may know, and then peace efforts culminated in the 2014 peace agreement establishing Bangsamoro autonomous region in the Muslim Mindanao. But even with this peace agreement, the government faced significant challenges in attracting private investment. One of the reasons was the persistent perception of the persistent insecurity. And the investors still remain very worried due to a residual violence from splinter groups and local armed conflicts. Another issue was very weak institution and the governance gaps. So the newly created Bangsamoro Transition Authority was in a very formative stage with a limited bureaucratic capacity and decision-making procedures. And also general regulatory uncertainty, land administration issues, slow decision-making, coupled with inadequate infrastructure and a very limited finance ecosystem further eroded the investors' confidence. So after the peace agreement, two international organizations, ADB and World Bank, stepped in to help the government to create more enabling environment for private sector investment. World Bank funded many community-driven projects through Mindanao trust funds. ADB also invested heavily in infrastructure, also provided capacity building to this newly created autonomous government, and also helped them adopt so-called conflict-sensitive development planning approaches. So as a result, private sector started to play a very important role in economic reintegration and long-term peace building, particularly in terms of livelihood restoration, local enterprise development, skills training, and microfinance. I think this multi-stakeholder model fosters inclusive and sustainable stability, and then it reminds all of us that when sectors comes together with a shared vision, we can turn fragile transition into sustainable peace.
Wonderful, thank you. And Ryujiro, I'm going to turn back to you. Do you also have an example you can share, and particularly about cross-border infrastructure investment that can promote stability within a given environment?
Yes, cross-border digital infrastructure investment, such as internet backbone, submarine cable, data center, and possibly open RAN, will enhance the capability of cross-border communication and would be a basis of closer relationship between countries related. And I think that Kellogg has emphasized on their teamwork and also mutual respect. And this is very important for their collaboration with local partners, which is very essential to success such infrastructure projects.
Yes, and I think this just highlights our collaborative lessons that we bring from Kellogg. And I'd like to turn to you now, Haruna, just learning a little bit more about the impact of PRI and ESG. Things have changed a lot over the last 20 years, so can you tell us a little bit about how you've seen things change over the last 20 years in terms of these concepts?
Sure, thank you. So first of all, it is remarkable to see how ESG, the concept itself, has evolved since the term first emerged in early 2000s, and the United Nations PRI, Principle for Responsible Investment, was established in 2006. And I joined the last two PRI in person, the annual gatherings of the PRI in Tokyo in 2023 and Toronto 2024, and the witnessed discussions around ESG being expanded with wide spectrum of perspectives and investment approaches. So looking back, initially, there was the concept of socially responsible investing, SRI, which is more closely tied to philanthropy. So then in the early phase of ESG, we had simple exclusions of undesirable sectors, so such as tobacco, alcohol, or adult entertainment, or screening based on certain criteria. So from there, ESG evolved to include, one is probably impact investment, which aims to generate real-world impact alongside financial returns, and also materiality-based ESG integrations that we touched upon earlier. But however, even today, ESG investment means different things to different people. And it is not a bad thing at all. So, but I would note that when engaging in ESG-related discussions, it would be probably critical to align expectations and the definitions on your side and the others, having a common base of understanding, have a interactive, mutual understanding. And also I'd note that currently in the US, we see, as I said, the backlash against ESG, so anti-ESG movement gaining momentum. And to me personally, this reaction seems to be triggered not only by concerns over greenwashing, so superficial ESG initiatives, but also by broader criticism that ESG considerations might distort investment returns or unfairly limit capital allocations to certain sectors. So again, discussions from various perspectives is critical to make progress, and we are happy to continuously engage in those discussions.
Yes, and I think ESG continues to be something that you can have to consider over the long term, and you've seen a lot of changes over the last 20 years. What about you, Ryujiro? Have you also seen changes?
Yes, actually, I worked for Investor Relations Office of NTT between 2004 and 2008, and what is expected to business has changed dramatically since then. And with this change in mind, NTT DOCOMO Global thinks it is important to bridge the worlds of people, communities, etc. around the world.
And I just want to echo what both of you are talking about. Business schools in general, over the last 20 years, the landscape has changed for ESG too. It's become part of the curriculum. and part of the lessons that people learn, trying to figure out the right metrics, making sure there's less uncertainty around these topics. These are very important things that MBAs continue to learn and will continue to grow in this field. All right, thank you so much. So now, let's talk a little bit about risk. We did start talking more about risk in these conflict-affected areas or fragile countries. What have the risks you've seen? What have the challenges you've seen within these situations?
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Of course, there are all kinds of risks, country risk and difficulty in stakeholder coordination, weak governance, corruption, security threats. So, effective risk mitigation, mitigating all these kind of risks requires very strong partnership between the government, the private sector, international organization, and local community. So in this regard, multilateral development bank like ADB can bring very unique experiences and capabilities to this context. The MDBs are the development partners that can take on risk that the private sector often cannot. And they can work very closely with the government to help them establish enabling legal policy and regulatory environment, particularly to encourage the private sector growth. Also, they have a significant convening power to facilitate the negotiations between countries at the policy level as well as between stakeholders at project level. I would like to share one very interesting experience of mine from Afghanistan. So ADB was deeply involved in the reconstruction of Afghanistan since 2001. And in that experience, we learned that it is critically important for the success of project to get the early stage buy-in from local community, and particularly local community leaders. We actually had various cases where the project near completion were actually destroyed, physically destroyed by the member of the community who are the beneficiary of the project, because the community leader, elderly leader, just said, I oppose the project on whatever religious reason, and they ordered the members to destroy them. So, based on this, what ADB started to do is they decide not to initiate any project unless a tripartite agreement between the government, contractor, and then local community leaders is signed. So this approach actually dramatically turned around the situation and became very effective in preventing conflict and fostering local ownership.
Thank you for sharing that. And just a follow-up question. So we talked about mitigating risk. You've also talked about the importance of collaboration. What actions lead to strong partnerships? And as a negotiation instructor, I'm curious, are there specific negotiation strategies you use to forge these partnerships and launch these development platforms?
Okay, so let me share with another interesting experience of the regional cooperation framework. So ADB has been a front runner in promoting sub-regional cooperation. They started the first of its kind initiative for regional cooperation early 1990s, which is called Greater Mekong Sub-Region Initiative. We call it GMS. So this GMS initiative have promoted regional stability by fostering cross-border cooperation in the water resource management of the Mekong Delta, Mekong River deltas. So water resource management in the Mekong region is a complex transboundary issues involving 6 countries, namely China, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And rapid hydropower development, particularly upstream dams, has altered river flows, sediment transport, and fisheries, and affecting the millions of people relying on the Mekong Delta for their livelihood. However, weak coordination and different national interests of the six countries hindered effective governance. So the key strategy that were taken under this GMS initiative, first of all, they strengthened regional institutions such as Mekong River Commission to improve data sharing, policy alignment, and joint water governance. But in parallel, ADB and then other multilateral agency and also Japan provided a cooperative infrastructure projects such as irrigation and flood control to optimize the shared benefit while minimizing downstream harms. And also they established a dialogue platform including GMS working group on environment to enable technical cooperation, early warning systems, and trust building among the countries. Also promoted private-public partnership in water utilities, etc. So I think these efforts ensure that shared water resources serve as instrument of cooperation rather than conflict. And by integrating conflict-sensitive planning, inclusive dialogue, and then joint infrastructure development, this GMS initiative has transformed the Mekong Delta from a potential flashpoint to a driver of peace, economic integration, and sustainability across the Southeast Asia.
Yes, and I do think that this is very important in terms of this developing a framework to build mutual trust. Without that trust, when people go in too quickly, you're not going to be able to resolve conflict in those particular situations. Thank you. Do you have anything to also add on, Ryujiro, about this particular topic?
Yeah, as for collaboration, having a good global partner and working as a team is very critical for the global business and also the cross-border transactions. And this includes those employees who join our group as a result of the acquisition, and also the business partners in locally. And then to address these matters, I think that, as I said, Kellogg's teamwork approach works well for such cases as well.
Yes, this continual focus on the team and collaboration. Did you also want to add something, Haruna?
Yeah, I just wanted to step in for the collaboration. As an investor, we often engage with corporate issuers, and then we having for example hostile or confrontational engagement is not really what we intend. We want to make it to mutually beneficial for the corporation and then us by to encourage better corporate governance, for example, for long-term shareholder value creation, which is beneficial for them and also for us. So, we are trying to be somehow trusted advisor when engaging with, corporate issuers, so that we can go, somehow hand in hand for better corporate practices for, longer term corporate value growth. So that's something that I just wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, in terms of collaborative leadership, I think this once again just is, these are themes that are important to talk about. I know, Haruna, you've talked a little bit about different partnerships with different groups like the Columbia Climate School. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So collaboration and partnership among the different sectors, including academia, are really meaningful, especially in relatively new fields with less precedence like ESG. So one case I'd like to share is our partnership with Columbia Climate School. Since 2019, AllianceBernstein has been actively collaborating with Columbia Climate School to leverage academic insights and expertise in climate change. So what it is, and then how it could affect our portfolio companies' operations or broader landscape, such as regulation or people behaviors, into our investment process. So through this partnership, we invited Columbia researchers and professors to training programs for portfolio managers and then analysts. And then this program equips our teams with the knowledge and then tools needed to assess climate-related risks more appropriately. We also provide a training program called the Climate Change and Investment Academy for our clients globally. And then in this 6-week online but interactive program, our clients who join that program can directly ask questions to Columbia researchers and also our investors, our portfolio managers, about the corporate climate change and then its impact to their investment process. So this doesn't only help our clients navigate climate-related risks, but also explore the broader socioeconomic implications, like the intersection of climate change and poverty, and that could cause, for example, human rights risk and also the geopolitical tensions. That's one thing. And another example that I'd like to show is our participation in biodiversity finance, a bond issued by the World Bank. So biodiversity, the variety of life on Earth, including ecosystems, species, and genetic diversity, is essential for maintaining ecological balance and supporting industries that rely on natural resources like agriculture. And according to the World Economic Forum, over 50% of world GDP somehow relies on nature and its services it provides. So biodiversity conservation is important, but issue is that requires massive financial resources. Mm-hmm. And then it also presents unique challenges because biodiversity cannot be directly monetized. It's a public good, and then biodiversity does not have a straightforward market mechanism. We cannot make money by buying it or lending it to someone else. So it was difficult to attract investment under traditional financial model for private capital, yet public capital itself is far from enough to cover that massive financing needs for the conservation. So this new biodiversity bond issued by the World Bank aims to conserve black rhino population, Kurosai black rhino. So black rhinos are critically endangered species due to poaching and then habitat loss, but they play a critical role in the environment as one of the keystone species closely linked to various other species' lives. So unlike traditional bonds, this black rhino bond is structured as a KPI-linked bond, so key performance indicator-linked bond, where additional return to investors based on the conservation outcome will be financed by philanthropic money. So that will be kind of like blended finance, and making it financially attractive for return-seeking private investors by adding extra return portion using that philanthropic money. So, and then the investors will be rewarded based on the growth in the number of black rhino that will be monitored separately by the third party. So by using philanthropic money to add extra return, but mostly financing from private capital, this is a very unique structure in combining two different types of money. But obviously, with this additional complexity in its structure, investors like us had to have extra work to due diligence or valuation or its transparency. But still, we are proud to and then happy to become a lead investor in this deal in a close partnership with the World Bank as an innovative solution for making impact while fulfilling return requirement as a private capital. So partnership and then creative, collaborative approach really matter.
Yes, you have to be creative and you have to understand the partnership landscape and potentially approach many different partners in order to actually fulfill these missions. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I would love to jump to the audience, and hopefully some of you can ask some questions for the panels, anything that's of interest to you. But let's talk a little bit about technology and innovation. And I'm going to go back to you, Tomo. Just tell me a little bit how you think technology, you are in the AI world now, technology like AI, big data, digital platforms, how are they reshaping conflict resolution, conflict sensitivity, and peace building as how they're approached today?
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's my favorite topic. So in fragile and conflict-affected situation, I believe big data, AI, and emerging technologies can significantly improve how the governments and the investors analyze needs, plan their interventions, and manage risks. AI-powered tools help analyze vast data sets like project data or public records to identify underserved areas, prioritize resources, and monitor development progress in real time. So this technology increases the speed, precision, and the responsiveness of conflict-sensitive development while reducing the reliance on-the-ground data collection. Real-time monitoring of social media, sentiment analysis, network mapping can provide the early signs of unrest, such as the rising tensions or spread of misinformation, often before the official reports come out, right? So, but however, the technological potential must be weighed against ethical concerns. Obviously, the risks include lack of privacy and consent, algorithmic bias leading to false positives, particularly against a marginalized group of people, and a limited transparency over who owns, control the data, and then act on them. So I think without the proper safeguards, that these tools can shift from protective measures to instruments of control. So reasonable deployment requires careful design, oversight, community engagement to ensure technology serves as a tool of care, not a tool of coercion.
Yes, we do need to be careful and start thinking about a framework around how to deal with the technology world now. Ryujiro, do you have anything to weigh in on this particular topic?
Yes, as explained, technology has contributed to evolution of the communication software. And I think the recent huge evolution of AI is changing dramatically how we interact with customers and how we conduct business internally. So there is always a risk that the misuse of this technology can lead to more conflicts. But I think by using wisely, we can use this technology to promote more about bringing the one and happiness, as our slogan says. And the NTT Group is developing new technologies such as ION and also AI called Tsuzumi and also 6C. And also NTT DOCOMO Global intends to promote marketing solutions which utilizing big data and also AI to our foreign partners utilizing the technology which NTT DOCOMO has been developing in Japan.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. At this time, I would like to open up for questions from the audience. Please, there should be somebody that will go around with a microphone. Great, back here. So yes, we see a hand over here.
Yes, thank you. This has been a great panel, and I appreciate all the comments. I have a question about what I believe is a dilemma. You talked about biodiversity, a dilemma of energy transition, where we're going to need massive amounts of copper, lithium, cobalt, nickel, and most of that is contained in very sensitive zones, whether it's deserts, it's the jungles, it's areas that have not been exploited, and there's a lot of risk of biodiversity. How do you think about that? I think for both of you, USUI-san and KIMURA-san, from your point of view as an investor, your point of view in the ADB, biodiversity and the need for all of these different minerals for energy transition.
Thank you for the question. I'm afraid I might not have the very clear short answer for that question, but as you clearly pointed out, it's a complicated issue. For example, coming to the energy transition, using solar power, from one aspect that might be a good thing, but what if, in the production process for solar panel, if there is inappropriate labor practice, labor management practice, is it a really good thing? Or even lithium, etc. So I don't really have a clear answer, but the one thing I can say is that we carefully engage with our portfolio companies about not only about their direct operations, but also indirect their supply chain and in operation beyond their own operation, but supply chain as well. So, for example, the modern slavery risk, the poor labor management practice risk, that is probably come to the somehow on the close to the top of the list. But we carefully watch that, as it's not a simple story. Like, yes, it might be helpful for future cash flow generation to be a cleaner company, but at the same time, we also need to assess the corresponding risk appropriately. So one aspect doesn't really show you the whole picture. So that has to be based on continuous engagement and the not one time, but a series of engagements with corporate portfolio companies, and also with the external expertise, like in academia and in others. So no shorthand, I apologize, but that's what I think.
Yeah, when, say, ADB speaks to ministers and leaders about the needs of investment for energy transition, biodiversity, no one, of course, argues because it's all about climate change. But in reality, they have to face the trade-off between short-term objectives, short-term gain, and long-term. Any project can be designed in such a way that it can help address climate issues, but it requires more time, it requires more cost, requires more knowledge. They're always under the pressure to address rapidly increasing power demand because using fossil fuel is faster. Addressing biodiversity, climate adaptation, it requires more money at a longer time while they are getting pressure from their ministers because election is approaching. So how to convince them and then get a buy-in? It's not easy work, but I think it requires coordinated approach among various stakeholders. So government and the international organization and maybe academia, we have to help convince them using data analytics. Private sector definitely bring technological solution. Financiers, of course, can contribute by innovative financing mechanisms.
Yes, and just to touch upon academia, you were talking about the Columbia Climate Institute. We also have one at Kellogg now that we're developing. So we can see that these groups are, academic groups are working with these corporations to try to solve these difficult, complex issues. I also want to add that if you want to ask a question in Japanese too, please feel free to do so. So thank you once again for that wonderful question. Do we have other questions?
All
right, and I'm one of the food manufacturers, and the prices, the grains are increasing. The prices of grains are increasing, and actually the prices, commodities are increasing in prices. And I purchase grains at a company, which is not no exception. Now the climate and weather. They're changing. In order to distribute the risks of the climate change, in order to prediction of climate change, to what extent, how long For how long can you foresee the climate change? So this is really a simple question, but I just wanted to ask you this. Thank you very much.
And then I'll ask interpreters to make it English for
That
Cynthia.
sounds wonderful.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for your question. For how long? Well, okay, by regions, well, the natural disaster risks, we really have to grasp the risks, which is very important, we believe. And we are headquartered in the United States, and the municipal bonds we invest in the municipal bonds, and they at each region, the flooding risk and the hurricane risks are actually meshed for the evaluation. This risk of this region and that risk region, how different are they? And if a company A has the factory there and company B has another factory there, and what kind of risk difference between these two companies, and how they are making preparations for those possible risks, we have to understand those. And by region, by land, we have a tool to evaluate the risks. We have the a high granular mesh to make evaluation for those risks. Well, probably for how long? I think we have to turn to other professionals regarding that.
Question? We have one right here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask a question. So my name is Elvis, and actually I'm from Ghana, but I'm a JICA scholar. I completed my tuition at Yokohama National University and had the opportunity to work with Scale Out. And through Scale Out, I got the opportunity to participate in this business forum. I must say it's very impressive, and I have got the opportunity to learn a lot and engage with most Japanese businessmen and other government officials as well. So my question is, so as we may all be aware, Africa's economy is growing rapidly, and Africa is attracting several investments over a period of time now. Particularly Ghana's economy has been growing even beyond COVID. And recently, our currency has been performing very well. And I must say, Japanese government has also extended several ODA programs to Ghana in building capacity. For example, the JICA, which I am a benefactor, and also the Noguchi Memorial Center for improving health and health research into diseases and all that. So I want to know how Japanese business companies are positioning themselves and to benefit from this ODS support and assistance that has been given Africa or Ghana to be specific, and how can we promote or support fair trade and sustainable development partnership between Japan and Ghana or Africa at large. Thank you.
Do you have a...
Okay, from business point of view, I think Africa is an attractive market, and actually, Entity Group acquired a company in South Africa called Dimension Data in 2010, and actually I joined the project to acquire acquisition, and I think through that we cover the business basically over the African continent. And then also, we think that it is an unmatured market and also growing market, so that we are seeing the opportunity to go into there in a manner which is sustainable manner. And so I think we are looking at these opportunities as well.
Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for the questions. Now, if you can pull up the slides again, we'd like to wrap up. Just to go back to yesterday's discussion and the Hiroshima Declaration about integrating P into the ESG model, I think this conversation has hopefully pushed forward some ideas about how to do so in order to build that stable society and secure business environment. So I'm going to ask one final question and to each of the panelists. I would just like you to share one concrete action that businesses and the audience can take to advance peace building or conflict sensitivity, if we want to call it that too. So we'll start with you, Tomo.
Okay, so very briefly, I think now peace is not only a moral imperative, it is an economic necessity. So as we see now, the private sectors recognize climate stability as a global public good, which is essential for the viability of their investment. I think peace and social stability must be viewed in the same light.
Wonderful, thank you. Haruna?
Well, personal reflection. So coming to this forum and then listening to like everyone's discussions and then yesterday's discussions, and then especially given that recent global developments where somehow, our common sense, the concept of democracy, common prosperity, might not be just a given thing. We cannot, take it as a, status quo. So I think my action to take after today is that ask a question, understand the person you are speaking to, breaking the silo around you, and then understand even when the person in front of you has a different opinion, and a view. That's probably my takeaway.
Thank you very much. And Ryujiro.
Okay, under these difficult circumstances, I think the return to basic is very important. I just emphasize the importance of the continuous cross-border communication in your daily life. And I found many discoveries with communication with my partners overseas. And sometimes I discover something I think is not what they agree. And sometimes I discover they agree more than I expected. And so through these communications, we understand each other, which should be making the conflict less. And so which should be the very basis of the peace building, I believe.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your perspective. If you want to put up the last slide. All right. Of course, we have to thank the organizers. Yoko-san is back there. If you want to wave and stand up. Thank you so much for organizing this session. We had many, either early morning or late night calls, depending on where we were. And I'd also like to thank Takuharu, who couldn't be here, but he was also an organizer. We have a lovely alumni network in Japan, and we're very grateful for that. And if you want to join the Kellogg DRC community, if you want to learn more about the teaching materials or research we're doing, please feel free to join. Otherwise, I want to thank you for your participation, and I want to thank the panelists once again for their wonderful insights. Thank you.
Mr. Kimura Tomoyuki, Mr. NEMOTO Ryujiro, Ms. Usui Haruna, and Dr. Cynthia WANG. Thank you very much.